You would think that winning an NBA championship would set you up for at least the next 2 to 3 years, but the Denver Nuggets had two things happen this week that are breaking news and might actually lead to them collapsing rather quickly. The Brandon Ingram saga is beginning to ramp up yet again, and we have some new major signings to report. Just kidding, they're not that major. But all of this and more on this week's episode of In Case You Missed It, the weekly recap that drops every Monday at 3 on this channel. Mike Malone and the Denver Nuggets front office are in the midst of a supposed rift for some undisclosed reason. In my personal opinion, I believe that the issue Coach Malone has is how easily the Nuggets let their key role players leave in free agency, and not just one offseason, but back-to-back seasons, as KCP and Bruce Brown are both gone now. In the front office's defense, they could not afford to retain either of them financially, but I think it has more to do with the lack of an effort they had in trying to re-sign them, causing the issue for Coach Malone. I don't exactly know why the organization would operate in a way to alienate probably the second most valuable person on the championship quest of 2023, because without his coaching style and schemes that he has created and developed to fit with his superstar player, especially knowing that defensively he is without an interior shot blocking presence, the Denver Nuggets having the defense they do is really a credit to Coach Malone more than anything. I don't know what the Nuggets are thinking or planning to do to correct this rift or fix it, but one thing is for sure, they need to figure it out before the predicted next dynasty completely collapses. The Denver Nuggets did hand out a massive contract extension to Jokic's co-star this week, though, and it officially locks up their core four until at least the end of next season, and keeping the duo of Jokic and Murray together until at least 2027. If you hadn't guessed, Jamal Murray has agreed to a 4-year, $208 million extension that will keep him in Denver until 2029. I dreamed of a world where he would end up in Toronto after the contract prior to this extension was over, but if you are the Nuggets, you couldn't be happier. But the supporting cast definitely needs some work, as the bench is going to get even worse, and the holes on this roster are getting even bigger as well. So yeah, there's a lot of turmoil and interesting things happening with the Denver Nuggets right now. They just really need to address the depth, and they really need to fix all these holes, because there's no shot they compete in the West, despite the brilliance of Jokic. But we all know the new narrative that came around this offseason, how Jokic and the Nuggets haven't been able to beat a 50-win team in the playoffs. And if that holds true, then there's no shot they have a chance in the West. And on paper, they don't even look great outside of Jokic and their core four. And their core four is, well, suspect at times, to say the least. So yeah, Nuggets are in trouble, but hopefully they can figure it out this year, because as I did say, they have a great coach that knows how to problem solve. But if he's alienated and upset, they do have a bigger issue. Shifting to New Orleans, Brandon Ingram did not attend a week-long voluntary mini-camp held by the Pelicans players, and if that doesn't confirm the fact he does not want to be a part of this team any longer, I do not know what does. Obviously, this has been the case for a while, but many were holding out hope for him to stay. He is expected, or at least wanting to receive, a $52 million yearly extension, which is crazy money for an injury-prone player that is also an unproven co-star. But there are a few teams that would dabble with the idea of him, but those teams are certainly on the younger side of things. At this point, there are really only 3 teams that may be interested in Ingram, as the Warriors are unlikely to pursue him, while the Heat don't have enough money to keep him if they acquire him. The 3 teams that could potentially investigate getting him are the Rockets, Spurs, and Jazz, as they are young rising teams with money. The Rockets have investigated the idea of trading for other stars this offseason, such as Kevin Durant, Donovan Mitchell, and even Jimmy Butler, but realistically, Brandon Ingram could be the guy that they end up with. The assets that would be needed to acquire him would be much less than the other players if you compare it to the 3 players mentioned earlier. The thing the Rockets do need to remember is that they have many young players that will be eligible and that are eligible for extensions, so paying Ingram that money is just not ideal. The Spurs would ideally benefit from Ingram joining the team, as they would be getting a true second option to Wemby. However, there is a high likelihood that Ingram does not mesh with the team given his play style and the youth of the Spurs team as is currently. The Jazz, on the other hand, are a team looking to take the next step towards playoff contention, and weirdly, I believe he could be a decent fit alongside the Jazz team, as he could provide the perimeter shot creation that they lack currently. If they want to pair him with Larry, the offense will work out well in my opinion, There is a lot of things that would need to be figured out between the trade and lineups, but one thing is for sure. Brandon Ingram would go to an even more unhappy situation for him, as the role he would play on any remaining team in his sweepstakes would be similarly as underwhelming as his role in New Orleans. The 76ers are relocating to New Jersey, allegedly after their expected lease ends in 2030 something. There is a small chance that the relocation happens, as the 76ers fan base is one of the better ones in the NBA, at least one of the more popular teams, so a relocation is pretty stupid in the grand scheme of things. This announcement is probably a play to get a new arena, but given how the NBA operates, there you're going to follow the money, and that would be tragic for all of us as NBA fans if they did in fact move to New Jersey. We have a few signings from this week, some training camp deals, and the others were just veterans being re-signed. Markieff Morris has agreed to return to the Dallas Mavericks on a one-year deal. Obviously a massive signing and probably the most impactful move of the offseason. Tristan Thompson has been re-signed to the Cleveland Cavaliers, as he is basically the heart and soul of the team for the past 8 decades. Talen Horton-Tucker agreed to a partially guaranteed deal with the Chicago Bulls this week. This means the Bulls added yet another guard to an extremely guard-heavy roster. Makes so much sense to sign another guard. Mac McClung also got a partially guaranteed deal. This one was with the Orlando Magic. If I'm being honest, he just needs to be in the NBA so the dunk contest can have something interesting in it, as we all know how he has been the only decent part of it. Former Sun and Grizzly Jordan Goodwin has agreed to a training camp deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. I think he is a lower grade Bruce Brown, if I'm being honest, and he is a quality signing for any team in need of a bench player. Julius Randle has had a spark in trade value given how his contract is constructed, and with that, we found his name back in rumors this week. I just want to make sure my stance on this is clear. The way he plays is very unattractive to any contender, so expecting a decent package for him from a contender is unrealistic. They need a center, so there are only a few teams that have a viable center option, and they'll also need a team that is so far out of contention that they would be willing to trade a center as well as acquire Randle. I do not see a trade surrounding Julius Randle happening, but at this point, who knows what is going to happen in the NBA. That is all that is new, so in case you missed it, that concludes your recap for this week. If you want to see my first official power rankings for the 2025 NBA season, click on the video on the screen. Y'all stay safe, have a good one, bye.